What is good, you guys? This is Steven with All Talk On, and today I have a $600 PC build for you guys. This is definitely in the mid-range to budget range PC gaming, and this will definitely get you kicked off into some pretty hardcore gaming and definitely will last you a decent amount of time. Now, I know every budget builder says that, but I chose these parts for a specific reason, and we'll go through that reason more towards the end of the build, so we're going to hop right into this right away so I don't keep you guys waiting. So we're looking at $612.99, and this is just a random generated PC parts picker list, and we're looking at $25 worth of promo discounts. Right now they have the RAM on sale, and there's always a set of RAM on sale that you can pick up for around 50 bucks, all the way up to 60-ish, around that price tag. So that's definitely interchangeable, as well as the GPU is on sale right now. We have a little limited time offer for was that like $20 off and free shipping, and that's actually a very good deal on the graphics card. So let's hop right into this. The first thing we have is the Intel Core i5-4440 3.1 gigahertz quad core processor. Now this processor is pretty friggin' intense. It's the lower tier of the Haswell processors, definitely for the i5s, at least, not counting anything else. So I'm saying for the i5s, it's definitely the lower tier. It's not a 4690K or anything like that, but it definitely holds its own when it comes to gaming, especially to gaming. This processor is more than enough for your gaming needs, even at high max settings, doesn't matter. This will get the job done. My roommate has this processor, so I know that it is very powerful. I know that it does its job, and for that $173 price tag from SuperBiz, we cannot argue with that, seeing how that's about the same price as an 8350 and a little bit more expensive than an 8320, which is why I chose it. Now, I have been recently looking at a lot more Intel CPUs, more than I have AMD. I want AMD to come out with something new. The FX series processors are nice and definitely good for the budgets, but at the same time, when you are starting to get these i5s to drop down to $170, $180, it's looking a lot more of a reason to pick one of those instead. Now, yeah, it's quad core versus an 8 core, but it will still outperform it when it comes to gaming. As far as rendering goes, I think they would mostly tie. If anything, the 8320 might pass ahead a little bit, or 8350, depending on what your clock speeds are. And and that's basically the only reason, is because of those clock speeds. If you overclock your AMD, it might get a little bit better than this, but not when it comes to gaming. Haswell's just got some really good stuff in there for those quad core processors, and they handle gaming very, very well. So this is definitely a good CPU to get you in that area there, and it will stay relevant for a long time. That's why I chose it. I mean, you still have people gaming on Core 2 quads and Cephrons and random Phenon, those quad core CPUs that are like ages old that no one should use anymore. You still have people gaming on them. So the i5 will definitely be one of those things that will stay relevant for the next couple of years easily, especially because of how powerful it is. So next we have the motherboard. We have an MSI H81ME34 micro ATX motherboard. Now I chose this mostly because it was super cheap. It does have our standard features of supporting 1600 megahertz memory, onboard USB 3.0 headers, and we have SATA 6 gigabit per second ports. We have 2 of those, and then 2 SATA 3 gigabit per second ports. So it's just got your standard bare bone stuff that you're really going to need for gaming. Nothing too intense. You don't need all these crazy features and lights and flickering switches and stuff. This is just mostly to get you into that gaming realm of PCs, have a decent PC that can keep up with everyone else's. And yeah, it does cut back on some expandability, but for the most part, it's gonna hold its own for several years. This isn't a PC that you're like, oh, I need to upgrade and upgrade and upgrade. This is one that you can buy and build and keep for several years, and it won't go out of style, at least not for another 2 to 3 years. It'll still be able to handle games coming out in the future as well. That's the main reason for this build. Next, we have the RAM. We have G.Skill 8 gigabyte to 4 gigabyte sticks, DDR3, 1600 memory. Now, there's only 2 DIMM slots on this motherboard, so you can only have 2 sticks. So a lot of people would say, why don't you get 8 gigs, 1 stick, and that way you can upgrade to 16 in the future. Why would you need to upgrade to 16 in the future? Unless you're doing some hardcore video editing and rendering, you don't need 16 gigs, really. And even then, instead of getting an i5 and 16 gigs, get an i7 and 8 gigs, and it'll perform better, and it'll cost actually cheaper. What are we looking at? 179, 360. Yeah, it'll literally cost you like $20 cheaper to get an i7 and an 8 gig stick than it would to get an i5 and 16 gig. So I would say take up both those slots just so you get the dual channel configuration. And next we have an SSD. Now this is kind of an unnecessary part, but I decided to add it in there because once again this just adds that speed. I normally don't use SSDs because it doesn't overall increase your FPS or gaming performance, and it definitely is a budget waster. When you have $50 you could throw towards something else, like for instance if you take this out, you could look into getting yourself a 280X or something and a bigger power supply to supply that 280X or 285X, I would say. That way you don't have to go too crazy on your power supply, because those 280Xs are monsters when it comes to power. They're hungry. Anyways, next we I chose just a 128 gig SanDisk solid state drive. It isn't really gonna matter, you know what I mean. SSD is faster than any hard drive. It is a slow SSD compared to others, but like I said, it's better than just a regular hard drive, and coming in at only $50 from NCIX, that's something we can't argue with. Next, we have a Seagate Barracuda 1TB, 7200 RPM, 64 megs of cache, SATA 6 gigabit per second, 3.5-inch hard drive. This is just your standard hard drive, and I chose it just because it's got 1 terabyte of space, and it's only $47.99 from NCIX. Once again, one of your standard things that you'll see in almost every budget build is a Seagate Barracuda 1 terabyte or a Western Digital 1 terabyte, unless someone finds a really good deal on like a Hitachi or a Toshiba drive. But this drive is definitely there to get you started and keep you going. That's 1 terabyte. That's more than enough space. Next, we have the graphics card. We have a PNY GeForce GTX 2 gigabyte card. Now, this is a good graphics card, and I don't really care for the 960. I'll be honest to you guys. Mostly when it came out at the 210 to 230 price tag, I would much rather spend that money and get a SSD and a 270X and a slightly bigger power supply than buy the 960. But because they have recently dropped the price down to about 180, I'm seeing it right here at Newegg with the $19.99 promo code and free shipping. $180 is definitely a good price, because the 270Xs can range up to $180 very easily, especially with MSI. And some other brands out there, the higher models of the Sapphire ones could definitely hit 180. So this definitely makes it a lot more appealing, and that is one of the reasons why I chose it, is because the $180 price tag. If it was any more expensive, I probably would have went for the 270X and put more money into other stuff. But this is definitely a good card. There are still people out there that use GTX 660s and the HD or whatever Radeon's 5780s or 5770 or something like that, or 7970s. People still use older generation cards, so this card will definitely stay relevant for a good while. So I wouldn't even worry about it. It'll keep you going. It has a very low power consumption, stays quiet and cool. It's PNY, which, you know, they make good stuff, and they got this really cool looking signature. But then it's the reference cooler that's the only crappy part. But at the same time, these cards have been known to stay cool and quiet and not take up a lot of power, so the reference cooler shouldn't be too bad, the blower style. And worst comes to worst, having that reference cooler leaves expansions for water blocks and stuff if you ever wanted to do that sort of thing. Not to mention that it does look pretty cool. I'll give it that. So this is the GTX 960, and those are the reasons why I chose it. And one of the main reasons, like I said, is because it's one of the newest cards out. And that means that it will have the longest lasting life for the most part of longest relevance for the future. And that's one of the other reasons I chose it. The 270X has technically been replaced by this, and they're going to be coming out with their 300 series that's going to completely replace that card. So getting one of those is like buying an older model car, you know, that's already been replaced and then about to get replaced again. So anyways, next we have the Fractal Design Core 1100 Micro ATX Mini Tower Case. Now this is just your bare bones, super small, super tiny-ish kind of. Still, it's going to be like one of those computer cases sizes that you would buy from like Walmart or something that come pre-built, or Best Buy. Anyways, the main reason I chose it is it's a very appealing $24.99 price tag from NCIX. Now we know Fractal Design makes some good stuff, so once again, another reason I chose it's a good brand. So we only have two 3.5-inch bays, which is very like kind of scary. it's not really a lot, and there's a lot of cases out there that offer more. Now Newegg has this for 40 bucks and $5 shipping. I would not pay $45 for this case. I would definitely go for something like a pheonix Comrade, which is on ncix right now for about 35 bucks, by the way, or a deep cool Tesseract, because I know that's got tons of hard drive bays, a window, and decent space inside and some decent cooling. But because this case was only $24.99, I decided that this would be a good purchase right here. So this only supports micro ATX motherboards. Once again, one of those lacking of expandability things, but it does have USB 3.0 header, and will definitely get the job for this build, job done for this build. So overall, that was kind of a no-brainer at 25 bucks. It's really hard to pass up, and the brand's Fractal, so it's going to be a decently built case. It's going to hold up well. And honestly, if you really want to save some money, just build your computer inside of the motherboard box and call it a day. That'll hold up just fine too. Doesn't really matter. So next we have the power supply. Last we have the power supply, EVGA 430 watt 80 plus certified ATX power supply. Now I always go for 80 plus. You guys know that, and you guys are probably looking at this 430 and being like, oh, that's really small, no expandability. Once again, I'm not building this PC for expandability, and a 430 watts is more than enough for a Haswell low-end i5 and a GTX 960. Those are very low-consuming parts right there. Even my little brother's build has a Pentium G overclocked and an R9 270X, and it only pulls like 230 watts at max load. So this will probably pull around that as well, probably about 250, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. Anyways, this is just to get the job done. Now overall, you guys have heard me say a lot, this is not for expandability and future stuff like that. What this computer is built for is that you could just slap it together, plug it in, and go. And keep going for the next 2 or 3, 4 years. Maybe if you really want to push it, maybe 5. You'd be pushing it. And just game on it and just use it like a normal desktop computer, things that you would do. That's what it's for. And for a $600 price tag, that's really not bad. And if you wanted it even cheaper, go for an R9 270, shave off about 20-30 bucks there, and then drop the SSD, and bam, you're like at 520. There's other little changes you could definitely make to get it a little bit cheaper, but this is more of a future-proof build, which I know they say it's never future-proof. But yes, everything in here will eventually be getting replaced with newer and cooler stuff. This will still stay a very relevant PC and will be able to game, like I said. I mean, I have a friend that uses a 650 Ti and like some low-end quad-core Athlon processor and games on it every freaking day, can max out settings on source games on the source engine, and can play medium settings on most games, no problem. And he's using a graphics card that is now 3 generations old. So that just goes to show you guys, that's why I kind of picked the 960. That's why I picked the quad-core i5, because I know it holds up well now, very well now. This gaming PC is very decent right now, and will continue to stay very decent for a few years to come, which is what this was about. Well, anyways, you guys, that's basically my little build. Now I want to move on to something. I'm going to be doing another computer build coming here very soon. I picked up a pheonix Comrade case. I'm going to be using my 8320 and my M5 A97R 2.0 whatever motherboard from Asus. And I will also be using a Cooler Master 212 Evo that I picked up. And there's a few other things. I picked up the SanDisk SSD, by the way, so I'll check out that too and see how that is. And there's a few other things. You guys will see the build in the videos and stuff, but I'm just giving you guys a heads up. Well, anyways, you guys, this is Steven with All Talk On, and I'll catch you guys later.